welcome to Hard Fight History. Thank you for listening once again, or welcome back. Preferably, welcome back. We
Hmm.
got a good one for you today. A very, very powerful story. However, we're going to be talking about some rough subjects and some
Yeah,
rough incidents, but it's
yeah,
all part of the plot. It's all integral to the story, as sad as it
yeah,
is.
yeah. No, it's fucked up. This men are
It's fucked
trash.
up.
Let's put it that way.
The men are trash.
This
Yeah.
men are trash. Garbage.
But it is like a really just like I
Yeah,
said a powerful story, and I
yeah,
hope you're here for it, but also I hope you're ready, because
yeah,
we're gonna talk about it. We're talking today about someone who is the known as the Bandit Queen of India. She is a former outlaw who became an MP of the Indian legislative body, or a member of parliament. MP. She's the
yeah,
avenger of the raped woman of India,
yeah.
Phoolan Devi, getting into the first act of her life, which I will dub exploitation. She was born August 10th of 1963, and she is, as far as like her caste, because they have the caste system and everything, she is
Mhm.
a Mala, which I think is on the lower end of it's one of the bottom twos, but like a
Yeah.
subdivision within one of those bottom twos. She grew up in the village of Gurha Kapurwa in rural Uttar Pradesh, which is like northern India. I think Uttar Pradesh borders Nepal, if you have any idea of the geography of the region.
Yeah.
The
This is
second,
yeah. No, I'm just looking at a map and I'm like, this is like the top, the tippy top of India.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's so many states in India. India geography is like that's something I don't even deem to
India is a
have any
whole
knowledge of.
world. I've heard that there are like
No,
150 different languages spoken within India, and I'm like, damn, that's
this
that's and just like a lot of ethnicities and everything, or it's like a whole world.
the population of Uttar Pradesh is 204 million. So
This is a shit ton. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's a lot of people.
Jesus Christ.
Phoolan Devi is the second of five children. She's very poor, and her family lives next door to this guy named Bihari, which is her uncle. And Bihari had swindled her and her family, particularly her father, Devidin, out of some land that
Mhm.
Devidin, Phoolan Devi's father, had worked, and that's where I think her father primarily works. Is I'm not sure the exact type of work she did. She may have mentioned it. The
Yeah.
source, by the way, I'm using is Phoolan Devi Autobiography of India's Bandit Queen, and
Mhm.
it's really good. Like it's
Yeah.
just one of those unput downable books.
Okay.
So Bahari dies at some point in her early childhood, and then Mayadin, who is Bahari's son, he comes to the village and takes over that land. So now they have to deal with Mayadin, as he's kind of the guy who's like making them work land that is rightfully Deviden's, right?
And the apple did not fall far from the tree in terms of douchebaggery.
No, it was that was the dominant trait, and it was
Yeah.
passed. The dominant
Yeah.
gene was
Yeah.
passed down to the son, and
Some
yeah,
people are just they just get that douchebag line. You can't help being a douchebag
a
because
lineage of douche. It's
you know
not
what I
even your
mean?
fault
Yeah,
always,
I
you
mean,
know.
like your dad listened to like so much Jimmy Buffett. You're gonna be a
You're gonna be a douchebag, all right?
douchebag.
Your dad thinks that Tool is better than Pink Floyd. Like you're gonna be a douchebag, all right?
What is Tool? And like, so many white people are popping out with like, yo, talking about tools. Like, all right, dog, I'm not learning
I
this.
don't. I'm not
I
getting
don't.
into it,
I
man.
don't have to. I don't have to be a part of this popular culture. I'm
I don't.
done.
I don't want to be a part of that. I
Yeah,
reject this dominant culture. All right,
yeah, yeah.
and maybe they're good. I don't know if I'll ever
I
know. I
don't.
don't know
I
if I'll
don't. I
ever
won't
listen.
know
I don't know if I
anymore.
want to be a part. I don't know if I want to know.
Dog, I'm just on YouTube listening to My Analog Journal. Weird DJs of wolf of like African jazz spinning vinyl. That's what I'm into now. I don't
That
have to
sounds
listen to
pretty sick.
Tool.
I don't have
Like,
to. I don't need
I don't
this
have to listen.
shit.
Yeah.
So 1974, Mayadin is talking to Phoolan Devi's family, and he says that he knows someone who would marry Phoolan. And for those of you who are decent enough at math, she is at this age 11. And the man who would marry this 11-year-old is this guy named Putilal, who's a widower in his 30s who lives in this village called Maheshpur. And now that marriage, from
Yeah.
what Phoolan Devi mentioned in her autobiography, it was technically against the law. And arranged marriages are common, but I think she mentioned that there was some law mandating that they had to be 18. However, this is not really enforceable. In fact, like some, and I don't want to. I would never defend the marriage of a minor. Like that's not what I'm trying to do. But just to explain why it happens, some families are like too poor to be able to feed their daughters, and so it's to the point to where it's like, okay, we can keep them in our household and they can starve, or we can marry them off and maybe the groom's family would be able to feed them better.
Yeah, I mean that's like one example of something that might happen. And I'm not even going to get into the entanglement of like arranged marriages in India. There's a YouTube doc about it. There's a YouTube documentary. Type it in, go watch it. I don't want
to. I will defer. I don't want to touch that. I don't want to disentangle that one. Yeah.
Vice did that sometime in 2014 or some year, and then they have a whole thing about why. And I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reason being, she gets she gets to Maheshpur, and she is now Putilal's wife. Yeah. And she mentions in her autobiography, it's really rough stuff. Like she's abused and she is raped by Putilal. The first incident, she's like mutilated and she contracts yellow fever. And then the father has to like come to Maheshpur and get her and take her to the doctor and everything. And then eventually she's kind of popping back and forth between the two villages, between the two homes. Obviously, she's like, I need help. I want to stay with my family. Don't take me away from my father and make me live with this monster.
Yeah.
And there's like a growing dispute where Putilal arrives at her home with the police, and the police are like knocking on the door of her family and basically being like, bring out this man's wife. And then they see how young she is, and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
this is you're sick. Like,
anybody asked Putilal why his wife died? Maybe he's not a widower. Maybe he is a homicider,
a murderer.
Like whatever.
And so after the police show up and basically say like, we're not enforcing this marriage is against the law, there's nothing we can do. Basically, Phoolan is now living with her family again, her parents. However, she is now marked in the eyes of broader society as like a quote unquote disgraced woman. And she mentions in her autobiography that it's kind of fucked up that she is forced to inherit the burden, or she is forced with all of the social stigma and the consequences of abuse inflicted upon her. And somehow it's victim blaming, it's her fault. She's supposed to take on that burden. It's like, no, he was a monster. He did this to me,
Yeah. Classic victim blaming. Fuck.
Yeah. So 1977 to 1978, she's like 14 or 15. Phoolan and her younger sister Choti are working as laborers with their father. And one thing she mentions in her autobiography is that Phoolan is always demanding payment from the bourgeoisie. There's the higher class. I think the next like rung up, maybe not within the same like same broadcast, because there are 4 broadcasts, and I think this is the next one up, but it's called Thakkars. They would like procrastinate payment as long as possible, and her father's always telling her to keep quiet, like the Thakkars are going to do what the Thakkars are going to do. They're higher up on the caste. You're not supposed to speak to them like that. But she's outspoken. She's like, no, this is bullshit. We did the work. They have the money. They need to give us the money for the work that we did.
Yeah, no, I need the fee. I need my fee.
I need the fee. We talked about this. I said I would do this job for X amount, and you need to hold good to that, right?
Yeah, that's the way I was at Taco Bell, bro.
That's the way you were?
Yeah, I need my money.
Need that hot 725, huh?
It was more than that. It was like 9. I think it was 9. No, it was 7. Wow, we used to work for pennies, dog. Not no more though.
Man, I started at Payway at a hot $8. I got that raised to $8.50. I was king of the court, man. Let me tell you. All right.
Yeah, man. Wait till you get a job that's over $10 and you ain't gotta wear no uniform. That's when can't nobody tell you shit that moment.
You know everything. I asked for that raise at Payway after like the supervisors were coming over. And my boss made me scrub shit off of the bird shit off of the sidewalk with steel wool till my like gloves and fingernails were yellow and everything. And I was like, listen, man, I need you to work with me. I need 50 more cents an hour.
That's
If
it.
you're
That
gonna
was your
make me
fee.
scrub
50
shit
cents
off of the
more.
sidewalk,
That was what you. That was like you're like
that's what I was able to
that was your
negotiate for
big plan.
myself.
You were literally just being abused, and you were like, "This is my plan, my big plan." You know, that's funny. You said scrub bird shit. At Taco Bell, we scrub shit, real shit, and off of everywhere in Taco Bell because nobody can control their bowels because it was Taco Bell.
They were eating Taco
Yeah,
Bell all the
they're
time.
just shitting everything. It was Missouri. And it was Missouri, and people would come in and they like be fresh off like the fields, some like cattle and they grow like the cows and shit. And like they'd be like, I'm get a chalupa, and you're like, God damn, they're doing shit everywhere just by the way you pronounce
Please.
chalupa. Like, just leave. We don't have a bathroom. It's closed. No. Yeah.
Not today, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
So getting back to it, her Phoolan Devi's mother always warns her to travel with other women or with other people and with her sister or whomever. She's not to let any man corner her because it's public knowledge that she is quote unquote disgraced, and that's dangerous for her.
What is so in being disgraced mean that she's been married before or like raped before or like that she's what does that mean in this context?
She had from how she tells it, she has no man to protect her, and it was thought that she needed one, and the fact that she doesn't have a man who would like stand up for her if somebody else did something to her means that she was very vulnerable.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, because of her. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So there's like kind of to show you the abuses that they were further subject to. The daughter of this official known as the Pradhan, who is the head of the district village federation, he was calling her, or she was calling Phoolan and Phoolan's mother names one day, and the daughter of the Pradhan ends up throwing a roof tile at Phoolan's mother and hits her in the head, and like she starts bleeding, and Phoolan freaks out and attacks the Pradhan's daughter, and then the Pradhan's son mobilized for defense and like beat Phoolan and her sister and her mother further, just to show you how kind of entrenched the class divide is. And Phoolan's like standing up for herself and saying, no, this is bullshit. I'm fighting back.
Yeah.
And then, they get countered again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then probably the worst incident that occurs, or the one that really like, it's just bad. The Sarpanch, who is the head of the Panchayat, which is the Council of Village Elders. Sarpanch's son is this guy named Suresh. And Suresh and his cronies are always trying to corner Phoolan around the village. Yeah. Phoolan and her sister and her mother, they go to a lawyer in a neighboring village with the Sarpanch's son and his men are like on their tail. And Phoolan tells the lawyer of all of like the attempts and the beatings and all of the abuses that they've been subject to. And then the Suresh and his boys, basically they defer to the lawyer while the lawyer is around, who I think is also a man. So, yeah. And then as soon as the lawyer leaves, they tell Phoolan and her mother that they are going to pay. Yeah. So the next night, Phoolan is asleep in her own home, and she is gang raped by Suresh and his men in front of her parents.
Jesus.
Yeah.
This is real fucking sick. It's just fucked up. Men are trash, dog.
Men are trash.
Men are trash.
She goes to the village of Narikhan because her cousin has connections to like an upper class chief who had beef with their village's Sarpanch. Yeah. And so there's like a militia that's mobilized from Narikhan under her cousin's connections, and they basically go to the Sarpanch's home and threaten the family of the Sarpanch. So now it's public knowledge that like there's some shit going on around Phoolan, and there's like a stink being raised. You know what I mean? But it's like now it's inter-caste dispute that's going on, and she kind of recognizes that like, all right, this upper caste official from Narihan. He doesn't really give a fuck about what happened to me. He's just using it more as like political leverage or like a pretext to dish it out or whatever.
Yeah.
And so eventually the Sarpanch, Maya Din, who is her cousin who lives next to her, and men from the other village, they get together to decide what's going to be done about this. And instead of, punish Suresh and any of the men who, victimized her, they say that she's going to marry the servant of the Sarpanch, which would effectively deliver her into the hands of her abusers. And so she hears about this and she says, like, fuck that. Like, she flees her home. And she goes and she stays with her sister Rukmini and her husband for a little bit. She's staying with them.
It's like you go for justice and then they're just like, okay, here's what we're going to do for a justice solution is just give you the opposite of justice. It's just, it's like the most opposite, like the complete opposite. I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine, like, I guess, I can't, of course.
Fathom how that would be anything close to a sensible and just solution. But they're not like focused on justice,
It's like, I don't know. I wouldn't even, I can't even compare it to anything.
Eventually, while Phoolan Devi is staying with her sister, word gets back that Phoolan is accused of being a dacoit, which translates into like a thief or a bandit.
Yeah.
And it's alleged by Maya Din, her bitch ass cousin, that she stole from his home. And Phoolan hears that her parents have been arrested. And so she decides to go back home to like save her parents from this unlawful arrest.
Yeah.
And she's like taken to jail where by police, where she is beaten. She's tortured into a confession, and she's imprisoned in a cell with her father, where she is again tortured and raped, and again this time by the police themselves.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
This just it permeates like all that. Like there's no safe haven. Yeah.
Yeah, this whole story is like is permeates story. I guess do this. I don't know. Yeah.
It's a rough one.
It's intense, man. It's intense.
She's imprisoned in a woman's prison for a few nights, and she's taken back before the judge and says, like, she didn't commit the robbery. I've been falsely accused, but she does not mention the rape back in her cell because she's still kind of at this point, like, afraid of speaking out against this, like, authority figures. And so the judge grants.
Then you can't go anywhere. Even the people who
there's no like even the courts will not protect you in this instance. Like if you're a lower caste woman, you have no right. The only protection is a man. And as fucked up as it is, like she doesn't have one, and so there's nobody who can mediate on her behalf. But the idea that she needs somebody to mediate on her behalf is also fucked up as it is,
It's
but she's gonna take it back,
There's only one solution. There's only one solution.
There's only one solution, right? Yeah. You gotta fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
And so she gets back to living with her family, and her entire family is shunned. They're told that they could not use the village well because Phoolan was like tainted and impure and disgraced, and eventually she's just so sick of the discrimination that she uses the village well anyway to get water for her fucking family. And then soon after she uses the well, it happens again. Like a group of Thakers, which again is the higher caste, break down her door, gang rape her in front of her parents. And it gets so bad it's to the point where like groups of men would just come shamelessly knocking on her door, at her family's house and ask her parents, where's Phoolan?
Yeah. And
her parents would be like, what do you want her for? Why do you need her? And they would just laugh and be like, why. And it's like, what the fuck are you for? She's like, she describes like sleeping in trees and just sleeping anywhere aside from where, from her family's home. And like, nobody should have to be afraid to live under the roof of their own home,
Yeah, no, it's like they're getting that, like it's such a fucked up like thought. Like I can't imagine this type of reality.
And there's no recourse. There's
There's no
no
recourse.
way
There
for
is one
you.
recourse. There's one
There is
recourse.
there's
There's one
no
recourse.
established
Yeah,
recourse, I
nah,
guess. So there's no within the confines of society. But why would you want to play by the rules of the social contract if the social contract is failing you? You know?
Yeah, it's
Fuck
just it's yeah, it's gonna be yeah. There's one recourse.
Well, we're about to turn the page, you know?
Yeah.
So one night,
Yeah.
a group of men dressed in police uniforms with rifles knock on the door and they ask for Phoolan. And the squad of men assembled outside, they threaten to take her youngest brother if Phoolan doesn't give herself up. And so she does. And they march out with her across the Yamuna River, which is like a river that leads into the Ganges through Uttar Pradesh. And they take her to their bandit camp in the woods. And this gets into the second act of her life, which is her life as a dacoit. So it turns out that this is like a dacoit camp, like a group of bona fide Indian outlaws, you know? And so whenever she first gets here, I think she mentions that she's like 16 or 17 when this happens. She's taken on a few raids of rich homes by this guy, Babu Gushar, who is of the Thakur caste and is also a rapist. Like she mentions a couple instances where he would rape women as well. And one night, Babu Gushar has Phoolan with him in his tent and he tries to rape her. But this other guy who was like the other main leader of this group of dacoits, this guy named Vikram, who is a Mala of Phoolan's same caste, he picks up a rifle, shoots Babu Gushar and all of his top lieutenants in a violent coup that puts Vikram as the leader of the gang.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, man.
That's how you, and look, I'm not advocating any type of violence, but like there's one solution a lot of times, dog. There's there's one solution.
I mean, when you're backed in a corner and there's nothing else you can do, sometimes you got to break the rules to get what you deserve. You know?
I've watched enough westerns to know sometimes the only solutions go in there with 6-shooter, shoot all
guns blazing, and shoot somebody in the fucking head.
Blow somebody's fucking brains out.
Somebody's brain needs to leave their skull in order for things to be set right.
Yeah,
okay,
that's how westerns. That's what westerns teach you.
That's it, man. That's all I've learned. All right, that's what I've been socialized into. And Vikram's a pretty solid dude. Like he marries Phoolan Devi in like a small informal ceremony, but Phoolan Devi like meets his family and everything, and he basically takes care of her and trains her like how to shoot a rifle and how to evade detection from the authorities and like, you know, the best time to hit homes and all this shit, and like trains her as a dacoit. And so Vikram I think he's known as like Vikram the Mala, and his gang is called something like Vikram's gang. They basically, what she's saying in her autobiography is they like stole from the rich and gave to the poor. And like any Thakur or member of a higher caste who didn't pay the laborers, they would get their shit fucking rocked. You know, they'd get their house raided and their valuables would be distributed amongst the poor. And now typically I'm skeptical of claims of thieves like, oh, we did it to give to the poor. But there's a specific, like, maybe like why I believe this claim more, or why I want to believe this claim more, is there's more, it's the caste system that you're dealing with. And there's like more of a communalism, like a solidarity, like we are all of the same cat, we are all the downtrodden. And he had like a whole elaborate network or Vikram did, a network of like spies and shit of who would, and like he needed to be informed of community events in order to know whose homes to raid and whatnot. And then he's also like got houses where he can like safe houses where he can post up in, and him and his men can be hidden. And like, you know, the spies would also let them know like, oh, the cops are over there. And, you know, so he's more ingrained.
Yeah. Okay. I understand what you mean by that. Like a lot of people claim to be Robin Hoods, but the only like the only time they're giving back is like to themselves, or like like this idea of like, well, I'm giving back and I'm giving out turkeys in the hood on Thanksgiving, but like you nothing else. You
Nothing else, just
nothing else
turkeys. I
good.
can afford the turkeys. I'm
Just
gonna
turkeys and that's it. Then I go back to my mansion where I plot crimes.
wait, that's
Yeah, like
another thing that Vikram does is he allows Phoolan to begin to exact her revenge. Like
yeah.
Phoolan tells Vikram what happened to her when she was
Mm-hmm.
11 and like all the shit with Putilal and everything. And so
Yeah.
they go to Maheshpur, find Putilal and beat him with clubs and sticks and whatnot. And like Phoolan grabs a stick and just starts beating the shit out of him with it and like stomping him in the dick and
Uh-huh.
just leaving him on the side of the road to bleed,
Yeah. Yeah.
like finally getting it back, right?
Yeah. I mean, see, that's the thing. Like people are like, man, you go out there violent, you know what I mean? It's never gonna repair, what you lost. Sometimes it does, though.
Sometimes it feels good, man.
Sometimes it
Sometimes you're
feels
not
really
looking
good.
for sometimes yeah, not
Like,
repair what you lost. Sometimes you're
yeah.
not looking to repair
I don't repair.
anything.
I'm not
I
that
don't want to
person no
repair.
more. I'm not that person no more.
Mm-mm.
This is a new person. This is a monster. You
I'm out for
created.
blood. You've
Yeah.
created a
Yeah.
monster,
Yeah.
and here I am. You know,
Like
welcome,
this is
hello, yeah.
this other person just like to play basketball. This person just likes to murder and stomp dicks out. Like
Chew on Adam's
yeah,
apples. You know,
yeah,
that's what I do.
That's it.
That's what I'm about. Turn the page, you know. And
Yeah.
she can't exact revenge on Maya Din because like he is her family, but they do track down his brother and they kill him. And I'm gonna read a passage from her autobiography because it's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
Poulan is speaking. She says, I went up to his corpse and gave it a kick. If you hadn't done it, you wouldn't have died like this. Vikram left a note on his corpse. He read it to me first. Police dogs, this is in store for you.
Mm-hmm.
Phoolan Devi. There was no turning back now.
Yeah.
The very next day, the police put a reward on my head. Surrendering was out of the question. They would just shoot me on sight.
Mm-hmm.
I had become a criminal like the others. But what they called a crime, I called justice.
Yeah. Yeah. These all just saying a bunch of valid things.
Pretty
Like,
sick.
yeah,
Pretty
like,
sick.
yeah, I mean, like this is like, yeah, fuck man. He just it's you know, it's kind of a story like a lot of women don't get the like when they're sexually assaulted or raped or they don't have the ability to retract any type of violence or they have no even though they don't get the opportunity for justice. But she's like
Yeah.
taking it back.
She's taking justice in her own hands, you know?
In the words of a young theologian, a young biblical scholar, one of the best out in this year, named Pooh Shiesty. She getting it back in blood. I'm gonna get that back. I'm gonna get it back in blood. That's it. Like I'm
Is this Pooh Shiesty?
Yeah, Pooh Shiesty. He's a young rapper, young theologian, biblical scholar, really spitting the gospel, talking about, I shot your friend. Come get it back in blood, bitch.
Come get it back in blood. Nice. And so with Vikram and Vikram's gang, she returns to her home village, Gurha Kapurwa, correct?
Yeah.
And she is basically like worshipped. You know, that's what she describes, is that they like came to respect her. They kind of worship her as a goddess. They start calling her like the avatar of Durga. And Durga is this Hindu goddess of like strength and protection and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And like throngs of people are there to greet her and making her offerings of like rupees and food and valuables and everything. And they go to Maya Din's house, and Maya Din is very apologetic, and he like finally like touches her feet as a sign of deference and like, you are above me type stuff.
Yeah.
And he signs over some of his land to her father, makes a super large offering of rupees, which Vikram takes. And Phoolan basically recognized, she describes in her autobiography, she's like, I know the only reason that they respect me is because I have a fucking gun, and I will shoot them. And now they all want to be like, I was right the whole time. I knew I was right the whole time. It took the gun to prove that, you know?
Yeah.
And so Vikram uses the money that he took from Mayadin to post bail for his crime guru, Sri Ram, whom Phoolan Devi refers to as the Red Demon. And he joins their bandit camp and recruits some of his he recruits some of his own Thakkars, because he's of the Thakkar caste as well, to join them. And this is the beginning of the division in the camp between Sri Ram, the Red Demon, and the Thakurs, and then Vikram and the Malas. And Sri Ram starts making like unwanted advances on Phoolan Devi, and the Malas kind of start deferring to Phoolan, and like tensions are heightening throughout the camp. They come to a boil when she is invited to a wedding in a local village, and someone, it's assumed Sri Ram, shoots Vikram in the back like a coward, and a shootout almost breaks out between the Thakurs and the Malas. But Phoolan Devi basically attributes to the fact that like a whole fucking massacre didn't break out, basically because Vikram was so cool about it. He was like, I'm shot, but I'm fine. And like doing the best that he could to de-escalate the situation because he didn't want the bloodshed, you know.
That's a classic like criminal plot twist. When your man's the old boss get out of jail, and then the new boss is out, the new boss is running things in a different way. And it's like, damn, I remember when I was out here running things. Now you got to share power. And they don't like that because there's a new order, the old order, and the new order.
Now they're old, you know.
Yeah,
they're no longer the big dog anymore. You know, they're the old. They're old. Nobody wants anything to do with
That's
you.
what I'm saying, man. You got to watch out when you bail out your friends. You know what I mean? You bail them out. You know what I mean? You think, oh, everything's good. It's not good, dude. It's not good. This is paid in full.
I haven't seen paid in full,
paid in
but
full.
I believe you.
Yeah. The guy who used to run it. He gets back out. He's like, "Damn, you're running things," and then he tries to. And he tries to shoot you in your face.
Yep. It's weird because
now you gotta get your friend named Rico to go handle that. And he murders him.
And he murders him.
Yeah.
That's kind of the weird thing, is that you would think that like Sri Ram would be like, oh, Vikram, my apprentice, as it were, he posted bail for me with all this money that he got from thievery. Thank you. I will now defer to you as a sign of respect. I won't shoot you at the very least for posting bail for me, you know. But it's like, I post bail for you, but that's pretty ruthless, and I guess that's part of the territory as well, you know.
First of all, a lot of people be like, oh, people are criminals. They're no, they're human beings. They're flawed.
Yes,
they're very flawed people. So they have jealousy and power control issues that are unresolved because they didn't get the ball that they wanted when they was a kid. And now you're gonna try to kill your friend who bailed you out of jail. That's how it goes.
Because the ball that, man, I remember that I remember once the first friend I made in Wisconsin was I got the last kickball, and this dude, he wanted to play with it with his friends. And I gave the kickball to him, and I was like, I'll give you this if you be my friend. And then they threw the kickball at me.
And then
so now I have a vendetta, and I have to go exact blood for some shit that happened when I was in first grade.
And then you got it back in blood, didn't you?
I got it back in blood. I did, though. I really did. I don't want to talk about that. And so Vikram has to get medical assistance in like a large grain mill. They like, you know, because they're known bandits, and they're like rewards up for them, and so they have to like find a doctor who's cool with being paid 100,000 rupees cash as long as he goes and gets assistance, you know, stitches this guy up in a grain mill. So it's like that's the life, you know. And so they're warned by the doctor, who's like, so Vikram makes a recovery, and they're warned by the doctor that the police are like scouring local hospitals for him, and they're wanted criminals. And so Vikram and Phoolan Devi, they head into Nepal for a little bit and lay low for a while.
What a lay low spot, Nepal. I hear isn't Nepal like beautiful?
Yes,
it's gorgeous.
I've heard it's pretty. Yeah, one of my good buddies is Nepalese, and he's told me some very beautiful things about it.
I heard Nepalese food is good too, but that's
good.
That's the whole thing from the story.
Kathmandu is a local Houston restaurant. If anybody wants to go there, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. They have like really cool serving dishes too.
Yeah.
So 1980 to 1982, when Phoolan Devi is now roughly like 17 to 19. Vikram and Phoolan, they decide to head back to Uttar Pradesh, and against Phoolan's wishes, they rejoin Sri Ram's camp.
Yeah.
But things immediately worsen, get like right back to how they were before. And Phoolan's saying like, hey, this is not looking good. I think we should kill Sri Ram and his men while they fucking sleep. And Vikram's like, no, that's like a coward. That's how a coward does it, you know? And then eventually Sri Ram does that exact thing to them. Sri Ram chloroforms Phoolan and Vikram and all of the Mallas and Vikram's men and kills Vikram in his sleep.
No, it's I'm telling you, classic. This is classic gangster movie, criminal. Just like, yeah, man, you gotta kill them before, because once it's out there, it's out there.
Yep.
Shriram hasn't been surviving because he was the nicest bandit. He's been surviving because he's the roughest bandit.
I mean, if anything, he's proved he's not exactly a trustworthy individual.
Yeah.
You know, at the very least.
Yeah. No, this is very
And then Phoolan's basically saying, like, listen, man, if we don't do it to them, they're gonna do it to us.
Yeah.
You want to get got, or you want to get getting.
It's a lot of times when it comes to crime, also like, or criminals or bandits, you're like running that kind of that elk, or I don't know what it's called, ilk. I don't know. Ilk with that. Like, the women are always smarter than the men. Like, always. Like, the men are always
astute.
It's a brotherhood. We love each other. The woman's like, you're about to get got. You need to shoot them.
to get killed.
like.
And then, worst of all, Phoolan has no protection.
Yeah.
And so Phoolan is paraded from town to town, where she is forced to endure more gang rapes from village to village, and she is publicly humiliated. And eventually she escapes from the town of Bimai, which is a Thakur village. I think it is the home of Sri Ram. Also, like, I think it's along the Yamuna River as well. She's able to escape with the help of an old Brahmin man, and she starts to like build up her following, but she's determined to govern her own gang as a man. And she commands that respect of like, no, I don't need a man to protect me.
Yeah.
I am a force to be reckoned with in my own right. And so her followers start calling her Phul Singh, which is the male equivalent of the name Phoolan.
Yeah.
Which gets into the third and final act of her life, which is consequences.
Yeah. Look, man.
So she is loosely allied. She's like 18 or 19.
She's 18?
Yeah, while all this is going on, she's this is like her 18th birthday, and she's like, I am running my own criminal gang.
Yeah, okay.
Can you imagine? Like, that's fucking crazy, isn't it? So getting into the last act, she is loosely allied and then closely allied. They like grow closer over the course of this with a Muslim bandit named Baba Mustaqim of Guloli, which is another town like along the Yamuna, and he like lets her grab some of his men and like form, and bring them into her own gang. And he also gives her a red bandana, which symbolizes revenge, and like a stamp that says Phoolan Devi, Queen of Bandits on it. Because like one Indian custom, I think this is what she mentioned in the autobiography, is that like, if you're a criminal gang, you let the whole fucking village know. None of this sneaking around shit. You're like, no, this was me. I am here. Fuck with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to mark your crimes. And she gets that stamp, and you see
like
that red stamp on the door, like Phoolan Devi was here.
It's like what they used to do in Vietnam, like the U.S. Army and Marines used to do in Vietnam. They used to be dropping the cards with the unit cards.
Exactly.
Say, let them know the goddamn first air cav did this shit.
Calling cards.
Then it's just like women and children.
It's
also like Vietnam, baby. Like,
we didn't lose Vietnam.
Yeah.
The troops didn't lose Vietnam. You ever want to piss off a boomer real bad?
Yeah.
Tell me.
So you lost Vietnam. This is gonna be a whole thing. You ready for a 35-minute conversation?
Troops didn't lose Vietnam. Wasn't the troops? They will shit their pants. It is hilarious.
They're just angry because they've had to rectify in their mind that the deaths of women and children, and also soldiers, but like the carnage that they caused and saw.
Or like the idea of American infallibility is suddenly burst for them. Like, America doesn't lose. It's like, no.
Like this is America doesn't lose my ass.
And so she builds up her gang, and if they heard, this is where it gets like real good.
Yeah.
If they heard of a man who had been like raping young girls. They would find him and beat him, and in some instances, like castrate them and cut off their penises. And then if they found like a police informer or something, like a known policeman, they would cut off their noses. So the entire village knew this person is dirty ass snitch. Do not talk to them.
We're getting it back in blood. Again,
getting it back in blood, man.
The young theologian Pooh Shiesty. We're getting it back in blood. Like, that's
what we're doing, man.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. It's just dope. That's a dope, like, nah, bro. Like, oh, there ain't no justice. That's when you're like folding a towel on your lap. And you're just like, oh, ain't no justice, huh? I'm gonna kill you and your family, and I'm gonna cut you.
I'm sorry it's come to this. I'm sorry I've been forced to this, but also I shouldn't have been forced to endure any of it. It didn't have to be like this. Yeah, we're here now.
We're here.
We're here. So,
we're in this world.
Yep.
This world. I get people. You guys. This unbelievable rapes of women, like crazy shit going on. People also gonna get their dicks cut off in this world.
I'm gonna fucking start castrating motherfuckers.
If that's the world we're living in.
This is the violent world that we're living in, and the only law and order that people seem to respect, the only thing that people truly fear and recognize as an authority around here is a fucking assault rifle. If that's what it takes. That's what we're doing.
We're here.
That's it. We're here.
In the words of, again, I'm just full of references today. In the words of Marlowe off The Wire, I think it's Marlowe Stanton. Is it not Marlowe? In the words of I don't know. In the words of The Wire, see, you want it to be another way, but it's the other way.
But it's the other way.
It's the other way.
It's the other.
You want it to be this way, but it's the other way.
It's the other way.
And then you're gonna kill that security guard for just asking you a question. That's
right, you're gonna cut off his nose.
Yeah,
so people know his offense. You know.
That's it. Yeah. No, don't even question me. Don't even lie.
One of the stories that they have is they sent one guy to the hospital with his severed penis tied around his neck.
Yeah.
Tied around his neck like on a rope. His penis wasn't that big to where they were able to. You know?
Yeah, let me tell you. Oh, you love it so much. Here it is. I gave it back to you. See if you can see how fast you can run.
See if you can reattach that thing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'll let you go to the hospital so you can reattach that thing. Get it back in blood.
Work on it.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Work on it, you know?
Yeah.
February 14th of 1981, Phoolan Devi and her gang, they returned to Bamai. This is like what puts her like really on the map, you know? They returned to Bamai, which again is Sri Ram's home village. And they look for some of the men who had raped her. Maybe they're looking for Sri Ram as well. And they gathered 22 Thakers and ordered them all killed. Now, Phoolan Devi may have not fired a shot and may have just ordered that these 22 men be killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how culpable they were, but when you're at this point where it's like caste warfare almost,
it's like
all motherfuckers are guilty by association just by being a, you know what I'm saying?
It is very reminiscent of like youth gang culture in the States of like, you get hit and anybody who's around there anybody outside, they don't want to get shot, tell their ass stay inside.
Yep.
So it's
exactly.
When you're at that point, when you're here, that's the law.
That's the law.
Anybody out there,
it's
getting it. Like, it's fucked up. But that's
fucked. But but we're here.
Yeah,
you know?
We're here. Yeah.
This is known as the Bemai massacre, and it results in a manhunt. I think it gets all the way up the chain to like Indira Gandhi, and Indira Gandhi, who is prime minister at this point, is like, all right, we need to bring in Phoolan Devi, you know?
Yeah.
Results in a manhunt, and the net is like gradually closing in by February of 1983, when she is 20 or 19 still, going on 20. Phoolan Devi surrenders to Chief Minister, I think is the equivalent of like a governor, Arjun Singh in Bind, Madhya Pradesh, which is like right under Uttar Pradesh, because she does not want to surrender in Uttar Pradesh because she's basically afraid that the police are going to kill her as soon as she surrenders. And she's told that she would not be hung. She kind of like negotiates her own surrender terms to an extent. She's told that she won't be hung. She's going to serve 8 years. Her family would be given land and jobs and whatnot. And then like while she's in prison, like serving her prison sentence, she's like treated like an animal in the zoo. Basically, it's like the prison guards are like charging the press and visitors to see her. And she also has like a bunch of marriage proposals from like a
Yeah.
bunch of men, from like men from basically around the world. It's not only like notable Indian men who are propositioning her. There was
Yeah.
like a French industrialist who was like, "Hey, baby, I got factories or something," you know.
Yeah.
So they're transferred to the Tihar prison in Uttar Pradesh, and eventually the state like drops the charges against her because she had been imprisoned without a trial. February of 1944, she is released from prison officially. She's living in New Delhi, which I believe is the capital of India, if not at least the like known capital of Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah.
And she has like police protection around her home,
Mm-hmm.
and she begins working on her autobiography, this piece right here,
Mm-hmm.
while illiterate. That's one thing I didn't mention this entire time. She doesn't know how to read or write, and so how she wrote this autobiography, she like dictated it to a bunch of writers,
Yeah.
and it came out to be like 2,000 pages, and then the writers whittled it all down,
Yeah.
and they read it back to her and
Yeah.
had her like approve each chapter. Like how many people can say that they wrote an autobiography while not knowing how to write? Like that's crazy.
That is crazy and intense. But then you like think about like how many people in just the United States even are like illiterate or barely literate.
Mm-hmm.
Like they barely can read,
like seventh grade reading level.
Yeah, and they're out here
voting,
fucking voting, becoming rappers, doing all the stuff, like becoming musicians, fucking becoming president sometimes.
Yeah,
so like members of Congress, senators, everything.
It's a fun time. It's a fun time, you know.
Yeah.
1996, and this is where, so February 1944. That's like the last thing she talks about in her autobiography, and her autobiography obviously ends on a high note. However, her life does not. 1996, she's elected to the Lok Sabha, which is the like lower house, or the lower house of their parliamentary body.
Yeah.
She represents a constituency of Uttar Pradesh. She campaigned with the Samajwadi Party, which is kind of like left-leaning socialist, which makes sense given her background and everything.
Yeah.
And then July 25th of 2001, 20 years ago, roughly, she was shot 5 times by 3 masked gunmen outside of her home in New Delhi. And she's killed like super close to Parliament while it's in session. And so there's something shady going on, or suspected to have happened.
Yeah.
The papers are describing it as quote unquote a major security lapse.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, you should come to the lower house real quick just for this vote, and ain't nobody actually there. And then that's when they just set her up.
This is outside her home.
No, it's outside of her home. I thought it was like really close to like the.
Yeah, her home is close to Parliament, which is why it's also weird.
Yeah, no, man. It's She was the Thakkars are still the one of the major classes, right? They're the upper class. So they never forgot about that.
They never gave up. There's the guy who kind of copped to it, or one of them, because there were like multiple people involved. This guy Sher Singh Rana, he eventually surrendered, and he said that he shot her to avenge the killing of the 22 men killed in Bamai, the Bamai massacre of 1981. And he was imprisoned in 2011, while 10 other men implicated in the killing were acquitted. To where there's like I think Rukmini, like Phoolan Devi's sister, actually appealed it and was like, no, this was bullshit. We need to look more into it. But I don't know what the results after 2011 were. As far as whether, you know, like we talked about earlier, the rules have changed, and you know, you're here where there's no recourse, there's no justice. The only justice there is what you can carve out for yourself, whether or not she's a hero or a villain. I certainly think that she's like, you know, real heroic, but
it's violence begets violence, but this is one of the most like just violence ass situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like
for sure.
Like of course, like we're not advocating violence on this podcast. We don't do that. But like at the same time, like this is like of a situation where it's like that
I can understand why it might be a little necessary.
In a situation where you should in fact get it back in blood. This is the exact situation.
This is it. This is it.
Yeah.
And then, whether or not she's a hero or a villain, I'm not gonna speculate further. I'm gonna let Phoolan Devi have the last word. She says, "I don't think of myself as a good person, but I am not a criminal either. I only made men give back what they had taken from me."
Yeah, man. I think it's said best. That's the best way to say it. Hey guys, yep. That's been our episode on Phoolan Devi. Yeah, that's a striking comment. That's a striking quote. Yeah,
it's fucking hardcore, man.
Yeah, the hardcore. Nah, dog. Nah, yeah. You look at the pictures on Google, and it's like, yeah. Nah, we trying to, look at what she's doing, that stare into the camera with the red band on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it back. Because I know what you did. I'm gonna get it back.
Yeah, I cannot recommend her autobiography enough. It's really fucking a good read. Like, damn.
Yeah. So guys, that's been our episode on Phoolan Devi. We want to thank you for listening. We want to we appreciate it if you go follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram at Hard for History, Facebook at Hard for History, YouTube at Hard for History, Twitter, HFH Podcast. Henry, where can they find us? Henry, what are we doing next week? Sorry, I'm fucking sorry.
Next week we're looking at the life and mysterious death of Anna Mae Aquash, and more broadly than that, the FBI's attempts to undermine and destroy the AIM movement, or the American Indian movement, and the reoccupation of Wounded Knee, if you want to think of it.
Let's put it this way, man. Anytime the FBI tries to bury somebody, the federal government tries to bury somebody quickly, there's some issues. Let's put it
There's some issues, man. Anytime the FBI, just look at what the FBI is doing and just be like, oh.
The 60s and 70s FBI
these guys
dirt. they were all a bunch of shit, running around, just being dirty men. All right, and women. Guys, thank you again for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. Tell your friends about us. Tell your family about us. Well, don't tell your parents, because they're not gonna fuck with this hardcore history.
No, probably not.
Enough with hard history. I'm joking.
Boomers.
All right.
Tell your blame boomer parents.
Don't tell them about
it. It might be cool. Unless your parents are cool.
Keep us a secret between cool people. All right. Now we're just ranting. We'll see you guys next week. All right.
Take care.